action. All that time. And that was the function of this sort of studio police. It would just make sure that people weren't taking pictures and that they were standing up straight.
Wow.
Subsequently, in years to come, of course, a lot of people were digitally added, which made things, incidentally, not much cheaper, which has always astonished me, because the whole digital process, it's so advanced and so complicated, is very expensive.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons I think that George is delaying any commitment to the live action series, which I think you know about it, because it's so expensive even to get off the ground that it initially can't cover its costs. But he's trying to work out a way whereby that might be solved. So,
wow. And I love that you know that information, because you are the Emperor of the Universe.
Exactly.
Jedi. I don't know these things, but now speaking of Jedis, and someone that I brought up earlier, Mark Hamill, who is going to be here. He's here at Celebration 6. We'll be talking about him. How was that working with him back then? Yeah.
Mark, you all know, Mark has a terrific sense of humour, and he was very bit like Johnny Depp in that respect. He really followed English comics. And there was a particular English comic that was brilliant. He was a conjurer who always got his tricks wrong. And Anthony Hopkins also was a great fan of his, does him regularly. And he would always go, just like that, just like that, just like that. Abracadabra. And nothing would work. So yes, you're getting ahead of me, aren't you? So when I was going, just like that, friends, and all of that stuff, Mark at the other side of the camera, now and again would go, just like that, just like that. I had to tell him to stop, honestly. I was supposed to be petrifying, he was
And did you have any idea that it was going to be this? I'm sorry. Did you have any idea it would be this lightning coming out? Did he tell you what?
Yes, he did. He said there'll be a lot of stuff coming out of there'll be electricity coming out of your fingers, which I thought was really exciting. Yeah. But of course, you do feel a little silly doing it 300 times, 50 times, like nothing happened. But it's very impressive when everybody goes, I used to think if only I could have just a little bit of that in life, not to kill or maim, but just to, just maybe a little bit of my pinky right, just go, so far.
And so now the makeup for all of this, which did you like better? Did you like being Palpatine and having that makeup, which is a much shorter time, or the Emperor Sidious?
Well, I like not coming in 4 hours early. That's always a good thing. And they cut the time down as the films went on.
Yeah.
But the very first makeup session was about 5 hours. I got in about 2:30, just to be sure. But of course, prosthetics have evolved over the years. But I was initially in the very capable, happy hands of McDiarmid, who subsequently went on to run the whole of the Harry Potter franchise in terms of makeup, and he was great. And he said to me, the best thing you can do to help me is to go to sleep. So there was no problem at 2:30. And when I woke up, of course, suddenly the voice went higher rather than lower.
But when you have that on, does that help you? Do you like that?
Oh, yes.
Is it fun?
The voice, the whole face, and I had no idea. Once again, I knew he was called the Emperor of the Universe, and I got the line, so I could sort of see the relationship between him and everybody else, which is they're down there, and he's up there. But I had no idea what he looked like. An Emperor, I imagined I would have glorious costumes, fabulous trains and velvets, and imperial crowns and thrones and things like that. So with this black piece of tat arrived with a hood on it, I said, I'm sorry, that's what I put on in case I get my costume dirty. And they went, no, that's it. and then they, but it didn't hold together, and so someone stuck a safety pin in to begin with and said, we can't have that. And so someone went out to, I don't know where, Woolworths or somewhere, and got this plastic clasp that and put it there. And then, of course, it became iconic over the years. I think it cost about 50 cents from around the corner. But the actual garment itself was very nice, and of course, it's genius on George's part, because the way it folds, and the actual material itself, and the way it lights, does everything. And it meant, of course, he could show as much or as little of his features, as he chose at any time. And also, it was just so simple. and straightforwardly dark. And of course, then when I got to play Palpatine, I got the most exotic costume.
Yeah, you got to do it up then. Yeah. So did you keep the robe? Did you ask to keep it? Did you hang out in it still sometimes? Now, how about
then you take it off, it goes to something called the archive.
Yes. How about those the cool lightsabers? You know, the taxi driver Robert De Niro thing you got going on. Did you know anything about that?
I didn't. No. And I assumed also that the Emperor would never be able to use. He didn't need to use a lightsaber. For goodness' sake, he had all that. Yeah. And when they gave it to Christopher Lee, in Attack of the Clones, I was simply furious. He said, "No, dear boy, I have it too." We would grudge Christopher Lee a few strokes of lightning. You know, he's been sort of practicing that in a metaphorical way most of his distinguished careers. But then, of course, when we got to the final movie, and I saw the term fight training, you know, on my schedule, I thought, well, what was, do I really need to? Okay. And they said, no, you have your own lightsaber. That's how it all begins, and you need to know how to fight. Perhaps not as brilliantly as the Emperor would, not as brilliantly as Ewan does, and Hayden does, and I can tell you, they were absolutely brilliant, first-class swordsman. And of course you see that in the film, but you don't necessarily know how brilliant it is, because you think, oh, well, they can do that digitally. Well, I saw the fight through many, many times, because you know that's how it's shot before it's divided into segments. It was absolutely extraordinary. In fact, I suggested they go on the road. It should be an Olympic sport. Maybe it is by now.
I think it is in this place. Yeah.
But then I tell you, me handling a lightsaber wasn't the most, impressively athletic thing you're ever likely to see. But I had a brilliant stunt double, master swordsman as well, who did most of it for me. But I had to go through the motions so we could get the coordination right, particularly with my facial reaction.
But and Sam Jackson, did he hit you with that?
Sam was great. Sam really was very skillful too.
Yeah.
And he was very helpful with me when we had that fight together. But it was fun. That was a big day. The day when we did that fight was also the day when I transformed from Palpatine into the monster. And then it was a Friday, I was just talking to Anthony Daniels about this the other day. It was a Friday evening, and the AD had a birthday, and so they were getting ready to celebrate his party. This was 4:30, and I could hear Anthony clinking the champagne glasses and bumping against his gold suit somewhere in the corridor.
I can hear him doing that now, actually.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And then there's this vast, almost as big as you, ladies and gentlemen, sitting in front, but not quite, thing called the Video Village, where all of the technical people who need to be there are there watching large screens and see that things are right. But then a lot of friends come in. George has a very open set, people's kids and so on. So it was quite like playing to a live audience. And the big scene between Hayden and me in the opera was on me that day at 4:30, and we spent an hour and a half on it. We hadn't rehearsed it at all. We didn't even have a chance to go through the lines. That's not unusual, okay. But also, I'd had in the film where I transformed from one into the other, 4 wind machines were being driven at me. And I mean driven, like tanks. So it does, and that's all right, you get used to it. But as well as blowing your hair around, which is whatever, and your clothes and so on, which is what everyone wants, you get most of the studio dust in your gullet. And then people don't think about it. So I was a bit speaking like that. A little bit. And if any of you are interested, look back on it, and you'll see the voice gone a little like that. George says, that's brilliant. We see the transition from one into the other.
I was talking to Jake Lloyd actually a few months back at Disney Star Wars weekends, and we were talking about how he enjoyed you and all until he learned that you were also the Emperor, and then he felt betrayed. And he started he wouldn't sit as close to you anymore. But do you find that, or sometimes people they find out? Because I mean, It's a tough thing to find. My daughter doesn't know yet about all of that. You know, she's 7, so she hasn't found out yet.
Yeah, I know. Yes, it is. It is strange. And I remember when we were doing the film, as I told you, I only realized when I got the script through. And because we had 2 different, you have numbers, all the actors have numbers, it just makes it easier for everybody. And I had 2 numbers. And the number was opposite Palpatine and somebody called Sidious. And then there was my name. So I thought, then of course I immediately, the penny dropped, but nobody told me. And at one of the showings of Phantom Menace, Liam Neeson came up to me and said, "You're him!" yeah, you didn't tell me! George, I didn't, I thought you knew. No! So he's never forgiven me. But he's not scared of me. There you are.
And how about Hayden? Because we have a scene that I would love. Well, actually, think about that. And let's take a look at the scene because this is just wonderful acting and wonderful scene. Take a look at those screens here, folks.